Welcome back, friends. Previously, we were discussing about ratio analysis, and under ratio analysis, we were specifically covering activity ratios or turnover ratios, and we have dealt with almost all the theoretical concept or cases that comes under activity ratio. Let's deal with some of the further cases that comes under turnover ratios. Next case, following information given below. Sales 9 lakhs, creditors 90,000, bills receivable 48,000, bills payable 52,000, purchases 5 lakhs, debtors 59,000, gross profit 42,000, 4 lakh 25,000, provision for bad debts 5,000, return inwards, other name of sales returns rupees 25,000, and return outward is other name of purchase returns rupees 80,000. From the given data, calculate first one, gross profit ratio, creditors payment period, creditors turnover ratio, debtors correction period, and finally debtors turnover ratio. So in this question, some of the selected items are given. Usually you may come across a question where either an income statement or a balance sheet is given. Sometimes you might given some of the selected items, and you need to find specific ratios on the basis of given information. And always think that the details given in the question, it doesn't mean that you need to consider all individual items while computing various ratios. Some of the information may not be needed for computing the ratio. For example, here provision for bad debt. Actually, it doesn't have any relevance or usage in computing any of the ratios because bad debts are relating to debtors. We learn debtors velocity as well as debtors correction period. In none of the cases there is a term or part which we have dealt with bad debts. So here the provision for bad debts is an unnecessary information. It is done or given in this question as a part of confusing the students. So just remember that some items may not be required while computing the ratios. Okay. First one, gross profit ratio. We all know gross profit ratio. Even though gross profit ratio that is a part of profitability ratio, since now we are dealing with the activity ratio where we study in detail cost of goods sold and sales, and gross profit ratio has considerable relationship between cost of goods sold and sales. So we are studying gross profit ratio under this category. Actually, this gross profit ratio comes under the next heading, profitability ratio. We will study in detail in the next part. For the time being, let's study or compute gross profit ratio. Gross profit ratio is gross profit by sales into 100. The question already given gross profit 4 lakh 25,000 and sales 9 lakhs. So the ratio is 48.57%. Next one, creditors payment period. In order to find creditors payment period, you need to find creditors turnover ratio. So let's go for creditors turnover ratio. Creditors turnover ratio is equation credit purchases divided by average creditors. In the question, there is no information regarding credit purchase. The only detail given is purchases. So let's take this purchases 5 lakhs. And regarding average creditors, we need, as you all know, average creditors means opening account receivable plus closing account receivable divided by 2. Since there is no information regarding opening and closing receivables, we just take the total of creditors as well as bills payable. Okay, before substituting the necessary values in the equation, be very cautious that while dealing with credit purchase or wherever the equation that consisting sales as well as purchases, use net sales or net purchases. In this case, the purchase is credit purchase. Since there is no information regarding credit purchases, we selected this purchase. Okay, before directly substituting this amount, make sure whether it is net purchases. In the question already it is given that there is a return outward of rupees 80,000. Return outward means purchase returns, and we use net purchases. So net purchases equation. The equation for finding net purchases is purchases minus return outwards. That is 5 lakhs minus 80,000. You will get 42,000. So 42,000 divided by average creditors So the total of creditors as well as bills payable, you will get 2.96 times. Next one, debtors collection period. Similar to creditors case itself, you need to find debtors turnover ratio, but remember, while computing, we left creditors payment period. So during examination, make sure you have covered all these areas. Okay, after creditors turnover ratio, we can go for the creditors payment period. Creditors payment period equation is time divided by creditors turnover ratio. For the time being, let's assume that the time is 365. In the question, there is no information regarding time, so default you can use 365, or if you have used on the base of months, there is no issue. Since there is no information regarding the time in the question, you can use any time. But on the base of my suggestion is that always go for 364 on the base days. Compute it on the base of days because it is better to find the payment period or collection period on the base of days when no information is given in the question. Okay, 365 divided by 2.96, which we have computed in the previous slide, you will get 123 days. Next one, debtors turnover ratio. Credit sales divided by average debtor. Remember, credit sales means net credit sales. Net credit sales means credit sales or total sales minus sales return. In the question, already information regarding sales return is given. Here return inwards means sales return. So you need to adjust the sales returns with sales in order to find net credit sales or net sales. Since there is no information regarding credit sale, we select sales. So you will get 87,500, sorry, divided by 59,000 plus 48,000, you will get 8.18 times. One more thing, there is a slight correction. Actually, it is 8,75,000. There is a missing of 0. Just consider while doing this question. Next one, debtors collection period. Time divided by debtors turnover ratio. Similarly, as we have done in the creditors payment period, we will also use the same information. 365 divided by 8.18. You will get 45 days. And finally, okay, only that much information is given in the question. You need to find all these ratios. So remember, while computing these ratios, make sure that, first of all, make sure all the information available in the question are aware to you. Familiarize with its terms or various items given in the question. Whenever a statement is given or any account is given, or like the same question which we have dealt now where some of the selected items is given, remember that it doesn't mean that all the information given in that question is required or has to be taken in finding out various values. Some items are not at all necessary. As we have discussed in the previous slide, there is one item, provision for bad debts. Actually, it doesn't have any relevance in finding any of the ratios. Still, it is given in the question. It is a part of confusing your attitude. So, remember, read the question well, understand the various aspects, and substitute the necessary data in the various equation. Okay, that's all for today. And for the time being, kindly try out this question. You are asked to calculate stock turnover ratio from the information opening stock, closing stock, purchases, sales, and wages. Try to do it. Okay. And one more thing. Here in the note it is given sales to capital employed equal sales divided by capital employed. See this equation, sales to capital employed. We haven't heard or learned or saw this equation in any of the previous slides, and you will not be seeing in the coming slides because it's an equation that is created for the time being. In this paper there are some equations which you may not have learned in any of the notes, but you have to try some of the equation depending upon the details given in the question. In the question itself, some new equation may be given. Means, for example, you are asked to find sales to capital employed ratio. Sometimes information like this will be given in the question. So it is implied that whenever such a question is asked, sales to capital employed ratio, you need to find sales to capital employed ratio. Just divide sales divided by capital employed. We all know what is meant by sales and how to find capital employed. Sometimes you need to find the ratios which you haven't learned in any of the theory concepts, but may be asked to find the ratio which will be specifically given in the question. Just note this equation, and it doesn't mean that you may come across the same type of equation. You may ask to find some of new equation that may be specified in that particular question alone. So remember, whenever you see you are asked to find some ratio which you haven't heard or learned, don't get confused. It's just a part of the question. You may sometimes ask to find or create a equation and find the answer. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.